The defiled of this unclean world seek rebirth in the pure land. Perfect cherry blossom. The maiden's remains in the other world. Background music is ultimate truth. We're finally here, surrounded by cherry petals on all sides. It's time for us to get to the bottom of this incident. This last stage really only consists of this one wave of enemies. Its bullet pattern can be kind of overwhelming, but if you stay near the bottom center of the screen and just watch out, you should be able to get through it fairly easily. Just like in the last game, the Stage 5 boss Yomu returns as the final mid-boss in one desperate last attempt to try and stop us from reaching her mistress. And we get to see this bullet pattern yet again, so you can see why it's really important to learn how to deal with this bullet pattern, since you're gonna see it 3 times over, and if you can't deal with it well, then it's not gonna end well for you. And here's your spell card, 6th Realm Sword, Ageless Obsession. This one is way easier than it looks. But be aware that even though it has the same on-screen effect, time is not slowing down for this one. Just stay under her, pay attention, move slowly, and let the bullets pass right by you. And with that, the path is clear. It's time for us to take back our spring, and maybe we just might see a perfect cherry blossom. This is the Ghost Girl in the Netherworld Tower, Yuyuko Saigyoji. Her theme is Bloom Nobly, Ink Black Cherry Blossom, Border of Life. She's the one who ordered Yomu to steal all the Gensokyo Spring, just to make one cherry tree bloom. Maybe if we read her profile, we might be able to find out why. Her profile is a lot longer than all the others, so I'm going to split it up into 3 parts. Final Boss. Formerly the mistress of old Saigyoji clan. Currently, the Ghost Princess. Mainly, she possesses the ability to manipulate death. Long ago, there was a divinely talented poet in the Gensokyo. He loved nature and spent most of his time traveling. When he became aware that the hour of his death drew near, he chose to begin his eternal rest under the most beautiful cherry tree he could find. That cherry tree has grown even more beautiful since then, charming many people into resting in peace beneath its blossoms. The tree with the mortuary charm developed the powers of a yokai after a while. 1,000 years have passed since then. In the garden of the Saigyoji clan, there exists a yokai cherry blossom, with a story behind it. It is called the Saigyo Ayakashi. For as long as Yuyuko has been there, the tree has never bloomed, even in spring. One day, while browsing through the library as usual, Yuyuko found an old record. It looked so old that it was practically ageless. Within it, the following was written: "The girl who bears witness to death, at the time of the Saigyo Ayakashi's full bloom, shall be bound by mortality. So that her soul may rest in peace within Hakugyokuro, I will seal the cherry blossoms and make it the barrier. My wish is that she will never again reincarnate, and never again suffer pain." Yuyuko had read that breaking the seal on the Saigyo Ayakashi, making it bloom fully, would cause a certain someone to be resurrected. She started gathering Spring's essence out of curiosity. This is her first spell card, Lost Souls Village, Fatal Sin. Now, where Yomu's spell cards had her moving around a lot, Yuyuko's spell cards have us moving around a lot. Usually there's something coming at us that forces us out of the way. In this spell card, the lasers come across the screen and force us into the waves of the other bullets. It's usually easy enough to find the gaps in between the bullets, but you want to get low enough on the screen so that they're moving straight. You can also make it easier on yourself by getting more to the side, as they'll be coming straight down there and be easier to read. Also, as the spell card continues, the lasers will get wider and wider, forcing you more to the side as it goes on. But also keep in mind, the more out of the way you get, the harder it will be to get back in front of her, and the less time you'll have to do damage on her. This is why a lot of Yuyuko's spell cards are easier to time out than they are to capture, and also why, if you have a character with a homing shot, it makes this boss fight much easier. Perhaps it was because of her carefree afterlife, or maybe the record had aged beyond recognition, but Yuyuko ultimately failed to realize that the girl who was written about in the record was herself. In the beginning, Yuyuko only possessed the ability to manipulate departed souls. Unconsciously, that power grew stronger, that eventually she possessed the ability to invite others to death. Terrified by her own ability, she committed suicide. After becoming a ghost, she thoroughly forgot everything about the time she was alive, and started to enjoy being able to invoke death. The reason Yuyuko can never reincarnate nor vanish is because of the seal on the Saigyo Ayakashi. Once the boundary is breached, the time that was frozen will continue to flow, resulting in her death again. Reviving the corpse will destroy Yuyuko's ghost, so this revival is an inevitable failure. After all, Yuyuko is not able to manipulate anything but death. The only person who knew the whole story, Yoki Kanpaku, grew slowly older due to the nature of half-humans, and disappeared, with the belief that Yomu could inherit the truth about Yuyuko. For all time, Yuyuko will remain as the princess of the Netherworld, and the mistress of the long-dead Saigyoji clan. She shall never bear witness to the full blooming of the Saigyo Ayakashi. Here's your second spell card, Deadly Dance, Law of Mortality, Dead Butterfly. This is probably her simplest spell card. Move from one side of the screen to the other to dodge the orbs, while also avoiding the butterflies. Try to keep moving as much as possible, and when you get to one of the edges of the screen, start moving in the other direction and move over and around any of the orbs in your way. You might notice that there's a theme to all of Yuuko's spell cards and bullet patterns. What I really like about the Touhou games is that the bullet patterns are sort of a reflection on the character themselves, and Yuuko is a perfect example of this. All of her spell cards have some form of death chasing after us. And how I interpret this is that it's trying to make us feel how Yuuko felt when she was alive, how she was scared by her own powers, how death seemed to be drawn towards her, and eventually how she was driven towards her own death. Basically, those present in the Netherworld are mostly spirit beings. It is for that reason she wondered about the corpse lying under the Saigyo Ayakashi with great interest, going as far as to consider breaking the seal. Her ability only enables her to invite people to their death. Bringing life to something already dead would be a first. Thanks to an all-out effort put forth by Yomu the gardener, every cherry blossom bloomed perfectly. Every cherry blossom except for the Saigyo Ayakashi, which still bordered on blooming. By that point, Gensokyo Spring had almost been completely drained. No one would have imagined that a living human, bearing a tiny drop of spring, would visit. And so, a battle for the last remaining bit of spring ensued. Here's your third spell card, Flowery Soul, Swallowtail Butterfly. The butterfly will follow you around the screen, leaving an explosion of bullets where you were last. What you have to do is control where the butterfly is going so that the explosion is easier to avoid. The best way to do this is to make a kind of figure 8 motion across the screen. To make it simpler, I like to think of it as there are 3 points on the screen that you are continuously moving to and from, 2 on the upper sides of the screen and 1 in the lower middle of the screen. When the butterfly comes at you at the center, move to one of the sides of the screen, and then when the butterfly comes at you again, sink back and move back to the center. Then move to the other side of the screen and rinse and repeat until the spell card is over. Yuuko's profile began with the story of the poet, who was the first person to die underneath the Saigyo Ayakashi. In later works, it's revealed that this poet was actually Yuuko's father, and it's further suggested that this poet was the real-life famous Japanese poet Saigyo Hoshi. Now there's quite a bit of evidence pointing to this. First off, Saigyo Hoshi matches the description of the poet in Yuuko's profile very well. He lived about 1,000 years ago, was an avid lover of nature, and was known to travel a lot. A lot of his poems talk about the beauty of nature, and he often uses the imagery of spring and blossoming trees. In fact, one of his poems explicitly states his desire to die underneath a blossoming cherry tree. And of course, he shares a surname with both Yuuko and the Saigyo Ayakashi. It's an interesting bit of trivia if it's true, but more importantly, it shows the inspiration behind a lot of this game's themes and motifs, and it also gives Yuuko an interesting relation to another character we might meet later. Her fourth spell card is Subtle Melody, Repository of Hirokawa, Ghost. This one requires a lot of moving around and a decent amount of timing. Start on the edge of one of the sides of the screen when the blue and yellow bullets are moving outwards. Then slowly inch your way to the side to avoid the next 4 waves of bullets. Then when the blue and yellow bullets appear again, wait until the last possible second to move to the other edge of the screen. Ideally, you want to time it so that you're moving just as the blue and yellow bullets are moving outwards. Otherwise, you might make it so that some of the butterflies from the other waves are in your way while you're trying to move. Unless you have a homing shot type, it's more likely that you're going to time out this spell card than capture it. This is her 5th spell card, Cherry Blossom Sign, Perfect Ink Black Cherry Blossom, Self-Loss. This is her only spell card that you can really stay in front of her a lot, so try and follow her movements the best that you're able to. This spell card has a lot going on and it can be kind of intimidating at first, so just stay calm and stay focused and just take it as it comes at you. The most dangerous part of this spell card is the arches of butterflies that come at you, but there is a weakness to them. They both have a side that's more sparse with bullets than the other one is. For the blue butterflies, it's on the left. For the purple butterflies, it's on the right. Keep this in mind and use this to your advantage when you need to. It's a good idea to try and never go through the butterflies or under them, rather go over and around them if you need to. It's also a good idea to not stay near the bottom of the screen, just so you have room to move back if you need to. Also, try and keep moving as much as possible, and it'll be a lot less likely that you'll get boxed in. Remembering the melancholy of human existence, Even ghosts can stray from the path of righteousness. Final spell card, Resurrection Butterfly, 30% reflowering. And that, folks, is the end of Touhou 7, Perfect Cherry Blossom. After Reimu and company defeats Yuko, she returns Spring to the Gensokyo. It's a little late and a little too much considering it's all of Spring at once, but Spring is returned nonetheless. As always, the Touhou games are made almost entirely by one person, and that person is Zune. He is the one who designs the games, programs them, composes the amazing music we've been listening to, writes the story, designs the characters we've been meeting along the way, and does their, art. But anyway, considering all that, the end product is always amazing. By the way, the name of this track is Sakura Sakura Japanese Dream. Anyway, I want to thank you for watching this, if you've kept with me this whole entire time, and I hope you've thoroughly enjoyed your time here, and if you have any interest in the Touhou series, I definitely encourage you to learn more about it, and I would probably recommend that you start out with this game. But anyway, there's something that's been bothering me for quite a while now. Wasn't it a bit too easy for us to get into the Netherworld, and wasn't it a bit too easy for Yomu to leave the Netherworld to steal all the Spring? Also, who was the person who sealed Yuko's body to the Saigyo Aikashi and wrote that record and left it in the Netherworld for Yuko to find? Something about this doesn't seem quite right, and something tells me this incident isn't over just yet. If you know anything about the Touhou series, you probably already know where I'm going with this. It seems like there's one more stage, so join us next time when we challenge the Extra Stage!